the pond. Having seen this, he thought, I must be mad, I must be insane. I've seen something that doesn't exist in the world. The man returned to the city and informed a great crowd of people, I must be mad, sirs, I must be insane. I've seen something that doesn't exist in the world. They said to him, but how is it, good man, that you are mad? How are you insane? And what have you seen that doesn't exist in the world? And he said, here, sirs, I left Rajagaha and approached the Sumagada lotus pond, thinking I will reflect about the world. I then sat down on the bank of the Sumagada lotus pond, reflecting about the world. Then I saw a 4-division army entering a lotus stalk on the bank of the pond. That's why I'm mad, that's why I'm insane, and that's what I've seen that doesn't exist in the world. And they said, surely you're mad, good man, surely you're insane, and what you have seen doesn't exist in the world. And the Buddha said, nevertheless, monks, what that man saw was actually real, not unreal. Once in the past, the Devas and the Asuras were arrayed for battle. In that battle, the Devas won, and the Asuras were defeated. In that defeat, the Asuras were frightened and entered the Asura city through the lotus stalk, to the bewilderment of the Devas. Therefore, monks, do not reflect about the world, thinking, the world is eternal, the world is not eternal, the world is finite, the world is infinite, the soul and the body are the same. The soul is one thing, the body is another. Or the Tathagata exists after death, or the Tathagata does not exist after death, or the Tathagata both exists and does not exist after death, or the Tathagata neither exists nor does not exist after death. For what reason? Because, monks, this reflection is unbeneficial, irrelevant to the fundamentals of the holy life, and does not lead to revulsion, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. When you reflect, monks, you should reflect, this is suffering. You should reflect, this is the origin of suffering. You should reflect, this is the cessation of suffering. You should reflect, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. For what reason? Because, monks, this reflection is beneficial, relevant to the fundamentals of the holy life, and leads to revulsion, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. Therefore, monks, an exertion should be made to understand, this is suffering, this is the origin of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So here the Buddha says that sometimes we might see what is very rare to see in the world, and we might think that we are mad. And also the Buddha says, don't be like this man, go to a corner and reflect about this world. And you reflect about this world, and then you have all kinds of views about the world. But the Buddha said, if you want to reflect, then you should reflect on the 4 noble truths, because that is beneficial. If you reflect on other things, it is not beneficial. So this reflection can be said to be also contemplation as vipassana. So this vipassana, we should contemplate only on 4 things. Objects of vipassana are the body, feelings, the mind, and Dhamma. Others are not beneficial if you reflect on other things. The next sutta is quite important. 56.42. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha on Mount Vulture Peak. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks thus, come, monks, let us go to Patibana Peak for the day's abiding. Yes, Venerable Sir, those monks replied. Then the Blessed One, together with a number of monks, went to Patibana Peak. A certain monk saw the steep precipice of the Patibana Peak and said to the Blessed One, that precipice is indeed steep, Venerable Sir. That precipice is extremely frightful. But is there, Venerable Sir, any other precipice steeper and more frightful than that one? And the Buddha said, there is, monk. But what, Venerable Sir, is that precipice deeper and more frightful than that one? And the Buddha said, those ascetics and Brahmins, monk, who do not understand as it really is, this is suffering, who do not understand as it really is, this is the origin of suffering, who do not understand as it really is, this is the cessation of suffering, who do not understand as it really is, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. They delight in volition that leads to birth, in volition that leads to aging, in volition that leads to death, in volition that leads to sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. Delighting in volition, they generate volition that leads to birth, generate volitions that lead to aging, generate volitions that lead to death, generate volitions that lead to sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. Having generated such volitions, they tumble down the precipice of birth, tumble down the precipice of aging, tumble down the precipice of death, tumble down the precipice of sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. They are not free from birth, aging, and death, not free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair, not free from suffering, I say. But monks, those ascetics and Brahmins who understand as it really is, this is suffering, this is the origin of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. They do not delight in volitions that lead to birth, nor in volitions that lead to aging, nor in volitions that lead to death, nor in volitions that lead to sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. Not delighting in such volitions, they do not generate volitions that lead to birth, nor generate volitions that lead to aging, nor generate volitions that lead to death, nor generate volitions that lead to sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. Not having generated such volitions, they do not tumble down the precipice of birth, nor tumble down the precipice of aging, nor tumble down the precipice of death, nor tumble down the precipice of sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. They are free from birth, aging, and death, free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair, free from suffering, I say. Therefore, monks, an exertion should be made to understand this is suffering, this is the origin of suffering, this is cessation of suffering, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. That's the end of the sutta. So here, the Buddha brought the monks up the hill, and when they saw this precipice, which is very steep, the monk said, this is extremely dangerous precipice, because if you fall down this precipice, you will surely die, so it's extremely dangerous. So he asked the Buddha, is there any other precipice more dangerous? The Buddha said, yes, the precipice of samsara. We fall down the precipice of samsara, we don't die only once, we die many, many times, endless times. And even before each time we die, we suffer so much. So every lifetime we come, unless we are born in heaven, every lifetime we come, we suffer. Even as human beings, we suffer. And much worse if you are reborn as a ghost, or as an animal, or in hell. So this precipice of samsara is not something to play with. Don't take it lightly. It's only because we haven't seen how ghosts live that we take life lightly. If you have seen how ghosts live, or if you know about hell, then you won't take things so lightly. The next sutta is 56.45. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Vesali in the great wood, in the hall with the peaked roof. Then in the morning, the Venerable Ananda dressed, and taking bowl and robe, entered Vesali for alms. The Venerable Ananda saw a number of Lichavi youths practicing archery in the training hall, shooting arrows from a distance through a very small keyhole, head through butt without missing. When he saw this, the thought occurred to him, these Lichavi youths are indeed trained. These Lichavi youths are indeed well trained in that they shoot arrows from a distance through a very small keyhole, head through butt without missing. Then when the Venerable Ananda had walked for alms in Vesali, and had returned from his alms round, after his meal he approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and reported what he had seen. The Blessed One said, "What do you think, Ananda? Which is more difficult and challenging? To shoot arrows from a distance through a very small keyhole, head through butt without missing, or to pierce through the arrowhead, or to pierce with the arrowhead the tip of a hair split into 7 strands?" And Venerable Ananda said, "It is more difficult and challenging, Venerable Sir, to pierce with the arrowhead the tip of a hair split into 7 strands." And the Buddha said, "But Ananda, they pierce something even more difficult to pierce, who pierce as it really is. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Therefore, Ananda, an exertion should be made to understand this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering." So here the Buddha says it is much more difficult to really understand the Four Noble Truths than to shoot an arrow and split a hair into 7 strands. Why? Because understanding the Four Noble Truths is, to understand it at a shallow level is not so difficult. But to understand it thoroughly and become enlightened, that is difficult. Because you have to cultivate your mind until it's so sharp, totally rid of all the defilements, the 5 hindrances, which means attaining at least the 4 jhanas. And then after that, then only you can see the Dhamma so clearly and understand the Four Noble Truths. Remember that we read in the earlier sutta, even the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin do not have joyous wisdom. And what's the other one? Swift wisdom. So only the Anagamin and the Arahant has joyous wisdom and swift wisdom, meaning deep wisdom, which comes only with the fourth jhana. That's why it's not so easy to totally understand the Four Noble Truths. There are some people, they just recite Ku Chi Mie Tao and they think they understand the Four Noble Truths. And that's really silly. That's what suffering, origin of suffering, cessation of suffering, and way leading to the cessation of suffering. They just repeat it like a parrot. The next sutta is 56.47. Now this is another famous sutta. Monks, suppose a man would throw a yoke with a single hole into the great ocean, and there was a blind turtle which would come to the surface once every 100 years. What do you think, monks? Would that blind turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years insert its neck into that yoke with a single hole? Stop here for a moment. This yoke is the piece of wood which the buffalo, the bullock, uses. This piece of wood is put around the neck of the bullock, the bull, and this bullock has to pull the cart, because this wood is placed around his neck. So when he moves, he pulls the cart. So this is the yoke. So this yoke, you throw into the ocean is so huge, and it's floating on the ocean. And then you have a blind turtle at the bottom of the ocean. Only once in 100 years it comes up. What is the chance of it putting its head through the yoke? It's more difficult than winning the lotto, isn't it? And then a monk answered the Buddha, if it would ever do so, Venerable Sir, it would be only after a very long time. And then the Buddha said, sooner, I say, would that blind turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years insert its neck into that yoke with a single hole, then the fool who has gone once to the netherworld would regain the human state. For what reason? Because here, monks, there is no conduct guided by the Dhamma, no righteous conduct, no wholesome activity, no meritorious activity. Here, there prevails mutual devouring, the devouring of the weak. For what reason? Because monks, they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What for? the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of the cessation of the